Hey, Jindou, welcome. Thanks for joining.
No problems. Hello.
Today we're going to be really chatting about how to integrate AI systems into, legacy processes. But maybe the first thing we do is maybe if you want to do a quick introduction of yourself, a little bit about HappyCo, and we can sort of just parlay from there.
Yeah, sure. So Jindou Lee, the CEO and founder of HappyCo. HappyCo, essentially, we have a product that serves the multifamily apartment industry. Specifically, our product is used for the maintenance aspect of running buildings. The company, we've been around for 15 years, so I was super young when I started the company, and now I'm just broken in every way possible. Today we have around just shy of 5 million units that's on the platform using us to do anything from regular work orders, preventive maintenance, unit turns, incident reports, inventory management, procurement, and anything across the stack that touches the maintenance aspect of running buildings. We have solutions for.
Very cool. And so today really, you and I are going to be chatting about how to implement AI systems and AI into existing legacy systems and processes. And I think you and I first connected in 2021, so it was sort of really before the boom of AI had occurred. And even then, you were already starting to chat about how to layer in machine learning and AI. And then 2022 happened. Was it 2023 when the Chat GPT stuff really caught
Yeah.
fire? So one, I'd love to sort of, just dig right into it, but you had legacy systems, a legacy tool, production clients, production code, built the old fashioned way, and then you
Yeah.
started layering AI. How did you even go how do do you stop, do you start? What's your system on starting to put AI into something that's already a well-oiled machine?
Yeah, and are you like talking more around the internal or the external side of things, like products, external products, or internal processes, or both?
Yeah, I would say both, right? Because I think, a lot of folks probably listening to this are coming from two angles. One, their internal teams, their asset managers, investment managers trying to figure out how do we do that? How do
Yeah,
we take a process we already do in Excel that works well enough to stop and take the beat and redo AI? So we can start
yeah,
there. And then definitely the second is where people have these legacy systems and processes in place built in some capacity, and then they also need to put AI. So yeah, let's cover both.
yeah. So I think maybe I think our journey was we started building using AI across our customer facing tools. So for example, the early days we already had kind of been using machine learning and kind of different other quote unquote AI pieces across the board already. So we already had done that, but I think it was the generative AI stuff and large language models that were really like turbocharging everything. In the early, I think we were quite fortunate because we didn't get too deep into building our own models and everything ourselves. And I think the fortunate thing is if you look at AI today, if you are a wrapper around any of these large language models, like, oh, good luck. It's you don't. I don't know if you really have a business or not, right? Like even you look at um, the vibe coding tools like Lovable and all these things, like amazing growth, right? Like hundreds of millions of revenue. But now Claude Code, like Claude Code is out and it's arguably pretty amazing. So the way our approach to this was we look at the problem we're trying to solve and then look at what models would suit the problem. So, for example, the way we've architected our products is if we're using Anthropic Claude to do some of the like calculations or machine learning pieces, we will use that. And if a better model came around, we're using something on Hugging Face, for example, we would just switch it out. We haven't got it quite perfect yet, but it's we always are looking at different models. Like for example, we're looking at a image model right now to identify hot dog, not hot dog, but for appliances, right? Is this an appliance? Is a fridge? Are there scuff marks on the fridge? And we looked at probably 4 or 5 different models. We've tested all 4 of them, and we've executed on one of the models, and we'll just keep updating it along as we continue to grow.
Okay, so when you look at like a legacy system or a legacy process, is there a framework where you decide AI is going to add value versus where it's adding complexity? And how do you go about,
Yeah.
testing versus knowing what may be spaghetti on the wall and a waste of time and sort of internally or externally facing?
I guess what's been really, really exciting and interesting is the sunk cost fallacy, or like just like if you think about capability and resources, right? So can you do anything with AI? Yes, you can, well,
Right.
to some degree, right?
Yeah.
And then you have you have infinite time now. Like time is no longer hey, we need an engineers, to build like two engineers to build this one feature. We've built agentic systems to like actually do programming, right? Like
Right.
so that's really cool. So I think like it's now super cheap to get stuff done, whereas in the past it required a lot of engineering time, a lot of like planning, thinking about things. So I think the way we think about it is like, hey, here's something we're trying to solve. Is it possible in theory to use AI to make it easier and faster? And I think there's two things you want to unpack. Faster, yes, right? Like does it save time for the user? That's one piece. And the next one's like, is it easier for the user? Because I think a lot of people when they build like the way we view AI is meant to be like an Iron Man suit for
Right.
the end user. And so we're essentially trying to think of like, okay, if a user is clicking buttons, 100 times a day, could we automate that into like 2 clicks, 3 clicks, or no clicks? If that's possible, yes, then let's test it out. Does it work? Yes, no. And I think the other part is the trickiest one is how often does it work? Because I think human behavior, like let's say it works 99 times out of 100. The one time it doesn't work, people like focus on that piece where they go, but they forgot about the 99 clicks that they saved. It's a really interesting time. Then you kind of have to think about exceptions. So when you're building interfaces now, you have to think of the exceptions and highlight things that require the 1 out of the 100, right? Like that need attention.
Human in the loop is where, yeah, is always going to be there, but it's, yeah, instead of having 100 humans, you have touch points. They're only touching 1 to 5 of the 100 steps.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah. Yeah. So that's a kind of rough framework. We just like think of an idea, how we can save time, test it out really quickly. Does it work? Is it easier? Does it save time? Yes, no. And then it's like, all right, well, should this go into production or not? That's a different question. That's also really
Okay.
tricky.
Yeah, but yeah, let's dig into that because it sort of kind of gets into the second question. So you now have, something that potentially could replace production level code, production level processes, and
Yeah.
you see other folks do that. Have you seen any folks make mistakes of being like, we're just going to hot swap this with the AI solution, and then have to walk
Mm.
it? Do you walk it back, or is there a safer method to deploy these things to forward-facing applications that just become seamless?
Yeah, I think there are cases where we've rolled out things. We have a smart assign feature. So just to give you an example, so when a work order comes in, we know the category and type of work order, and then we have people that can do the work, right? And we actually build up it's actually like a baseball card of every single maintenance technician, so that we know their plumbing skills, their electrical skills, blah blah. So when we first launched it, we did automatic assignment of and we thought that's pretty cool. Everyone would love that. Where we were wrong was that the human in the loop element was
Yeah.
still very good. And I think the machine learning and AI, it didn't take into consideration the nuances of, sure, this guy's great at plumbing, but you know what, he cut his finger last week and he can't, whatever it is, right? So that was one element that we were like, crap, like we released it and then a few people liked it, but the people that like there's a bunch of people that hated it. And I
Right.
think and I was talking to a gentleman earlier on. I'm like, you want to be in the camp where someone either loves what you've done or hates what you've done. You don't want to be in the lukewarm, that sort of middle area, because that's when no one gives a shit. Gives a
Yeah.
And that's a very dangerous place. If someone hates it, that's a great opportunity to go out and go, why do you hate it? And what we found out for this specific case is like they wanted the ability to control the assignment. So then we were like, let's pare it back. And so now we have like I think in video games you have this concept where you select things and it's in sort of perpetual wiggle mode, and then the iPhone has that wiggle mode. So
Yeah.
now all these tasks are in wiggle mode, and you can like reassign different things based on like human in the loop, like local knowledge. So that's an example of like something we did wrong. I think it's really, really important still talking to your end users and your customers. Like that's something that will not go away, at least for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, and you talk about like the best AIs. You have AIs that people love or hate. I'm in the camp of the best AI is the AI that people don't even know exist. So you
Yeah,
still might
yeah,
have the button, but then everything else that happens behind the scenes, and you just have the output, and people don't
yeah,
even know it. This entire system was replaced with AI behind the scenes.
yeah,
And the other one, I think we come from a data background, and the one we see all the time is like we want to be able to talk to our data, we want to be able to query the data, and there is a valid use case in that. But
yeah,
when we finally push something like that and we challenge people and said, do you want to come in every morning and ask 40 questions, or do you want the AI to just remember the 40 questions you're going to ask it automatically at midnight, run it in the AI, and then just send you an email of the things that felt problematic. Everyone
Yeah.
errs to that second option. And anyone that went to the whole like talk to your data mode very quickly just went back to like, can you just build me a custom report where it just tells me my occupancy, just give me a
Yeah.
button because it sounds great in practice, but it's one of those things where you're still having to come in and do critical thinking, and there's work and effort in that. Even though
Yeah.
the research is being done by AI, like, can you even strip that away so where you're just having to do nothing in between? And there's a lot of that's where we've seen a lot more wins as well.
Yeah, yeah. No, and I agree. I think I think the sort of ask, like, the problem is that people don't know what to ask, right? Because if
Right.
we did, we would already do that and do something. I think there's a lot, and if you think of real estate in general, it's you don't typically get like MBA doctorate people working on on the assets. You
Right.
know what I mean? It's smart people, but like actually you get a host of different people. Like some are really, really, really capable. Some are like okay. Some of them have worked on site and kind of graduated into an asset manager role. So people don't even know what to ask, right? So I think there's a our philosophy of view is like if we can like why tell people what's wrong when you can actually AI should be able to do what's wrong. Like, it should
Well,
just do the work for you.
yeah. Well, on that note, that's probably a great segue to the next question, right? So with legacy systems, and as you're going to get bad data, right? It's part of the world of working with data systems, and these legacy systems will build out data, and AI thrives on good data. So, what is the plan for getting data that's been sitting in these legacy systems for years that was never structured to AI to something that can actually be used AI, right? So the answer shouldn't be throw your hands up, it's impossible. And we've seen people do that. But so how do you bridge that gap to get old legacy system data AI ready?
Yeah, I like it. It's so I think prior to AI, this was a really hard problem to solve. Right? It was expensive. It was inconsistent. Traditionally you would have like humans that go in and the mechanical
Yeah.
Turk thing. I still think there's still a important layer around the mechanical Turk, but what AI can do is sort of at least 60, 70, 80% of the data or get it structured in a tag in a good way. So look, I can't really speak to the PMS data because I think that data is really, really messy.
Well, it's not even just PMSs, right? It's ERPs, it's SAPs, it's every industry have the like COBOL based systems
Yeah,
that work, and they're built like rocks. But now these
yeah,
companies are like Ford's trying to take their COBOL system to AI. Like
yeah, yeah.
they're how
So
bridging that gap's hard.
yeah, and so I think like we've taken a bit of a different approach here. So, like again, if I may not be answering your question, like so for our own data, we're going through an effort to kind of cleanse it, make sure it's structured in the right way. But I do think like we're moving away from like these hard coded databases is going to be very, very important, right? So we like this concept of the property graph, right? So the social graph is, if you think of social graph, it's kind of what Facebook's built on, or LinkedIn, and how people are entities, they kind of relate to one another, interactions. Did Vimal like my post? Did he hate my post? Oh, I hate him as a person. Like that structure is really, really great. And I think there's something to be said for maybe something similar in terms of how we think about data structures. Maybe it's a graph. It's a graph of sorts where we're thinking about relationships between things and events. They're not like hard coded in a database because there's 20 things that we didn't even know was possible today that will become possible. And how do you add that to a database? You can't. The engineers will pull their hair out and go, oh, this is going to take a 6-month migration path. But if you think about it from a graph perspective, you can just keep extending upon it.
Yeah, that's actually really fascinating. I appreciate you sharing that. Yeah, you can say whether it's a semantic model or a vector database or a graph database, or you're still having to create, or you're creating a secondary layer that's on top of the
Yes.
structure that's AI ready. Okay.
Yeah. So
Okay.
look,
That.
so we're in that process right now, right? And we've not all our products are there, but we're migrating everything to that kind of a framework in anticipation that there's going to be a billion more tools coming out that everyone's going to be vibe coding.
Yeah.
Right, so we have to be ready for a scenario where that's possible. And I think if you're an ERP system, I don't know how it's a big effort that doesn't have like ROI and for at least 3-4 years if you're a large ERP. So
Okay.
I don't know how traditionally people will do that, but we're doing that right now.
That's very cool. Yeah, well, we'll just sort of jumping to I know we're a little bit over, hopefully, if you don't mind, just a couple last questions. So, for somebody listening that has like a very small team, very limited budget, like what's a realistic first step they could take, maybe this quarter, to start integrating AI without ripping out like what they've been working on for 2, 3, 4 years?
If you have a small team, you are already winning. Right? If you have a small team, it's like 2, 3, 4, 10 people, like you guys can move like that. You have a bigger team like us, it's really challenging. And if you have like 1,000, 2,000 person organization, gosh, I don't even know where you would even start. But I would, if you're a smaller team, I'll get onto something like Claude Code. Like I think Anthropic Claude is probably the best thing out there. And I think you want to think about it in terms of levels, and you want to get from level 0 to level 1, which is just being able to use these tools, not just on chat, right? You want to get to that level 1, just being comfortable with it. Level 2 is just getting Claude Code to start coding stuff. Level 3, you might be building agents. Everyone is trying to level up themselves. Something that we haven't got there yet is how we think about AI across enterprise, right? Across how do you then have systems? The crazy part is everyone is, 12 months worth of experience, and we're all trying to map.
We're all curious learners. Yeah, there's no experts. We're all just whoever's the most curious is the expert here.
Exactly. Whoever's the most, and curiosity, I think, is going to be, I put out a post recently because I'm like, I hate the traditional interview process. It really sucks. So I just said, hey, build something in AI and just show me and talk me through it, right? And that's amazing. It's been going so well.
I saw. Yeah, we started asking like, what's one side project thing you've built in the last 6 months, right? I think that's just a telling sign of like how people are wired. So very cool. So maybe just last question for you as we wrap up. Like, what's the tool you're most excited about right now? And this is going to date us because in 6 months, whatever you answer, people are gonna be like, that's a dinosaur tool. But today,
So I'll just this one won't go away for a while. I'm really excited about Claude. Anything that Claude has, it's
magic.
I'm a graphic designer or designer by education, right? And I'm techie. I built stuff, but I'm always limited by API. Like, I know someone's API. I don't know how to read it. I feed that in and I go build me an endpoint, and it just builds the connections. It doesn't even build the endpoint, does the work. And I'm like, so I'm really limited by imagination and creativity. And that's
And
super
time.
cool.
Yeah, because there's so many things that you're like, I could build that, and you're like, all right, which ones do or provide value?
I'm limited by my own context window,
Yeah,
right? And my tokens, which is my energy. I don't have enough energy to keep doing it because I get tired after 18 hours.
yeah,
But I think it's really cool. I think it's empowers everyone to have, an engineering team, product team, design team in their pocket.
yeah. It's exciting. Cool. Well, I appreciate you taking the time. I know we're in wildly different time zones here. It's 10:30 here. So, but again, Jindou, thank you so much for taking the time. And yeah,
Yeah.
hopefully we keep chatting.
Yeah, no worries. Thank you so much.
All right, bye.